Okay, we are almost live. Welcome everyone. On behalf of the Malaysian Agroecology Society for Sustainable Resource Intensification (REMAS), the University Putra Malaysia (UPM), and the Malaysian Food Security and Sovereignty Forum (FKMM), we are pleased to have you joining the international webinar on Agroecology and Community Series 11 of the year 2021. I am Dini Zulkafli, your moderator for this webinar session. For your information, our webinar for today entitled Climate Resilient Natural Farming for Farmers' Livelihoods, People's Health and for the Planet, Learning from India. The International Agroecology webinar series were part of our efforts to promote agroecological approaches for sustainable agriculture with related topics presented by both local and international speakers. This is a monthly event to raise awareness on agroecology and explore community practices globally. And for Series 11 of 2021, we are lucky to have Mr. Sri Vijay Kumar Talam as our speaker to share his experiences about climate resilient natural farming, which we will hear more stories from the regions of India that may be practicing a similar or different principles of SRI and agroecological approach as the others from different countries. Ladies and gentlemen, our honorable speaker today is Mr. Sri Vijay Kumar Talam, the current Executive Vice Chairman of Ritu Sadhikara Samstha, which also known as RIS India, which act as Development Corporation for Farmers Empowerment. A brief introduction of our speaker today. Mr. Vijay graduated with honor in physics and later received his MBA from Faculty of Management Studies of Delhi University in 1977. In 1983, Mr. Vijay joined the government in the Indian Administrative Service, which allotted to Andhra Pradesh cadre. In his 37 years of government service, he has spent about 25 years in large-scale community mobilization and promotion of livelihoods of rural women, tribal communities, and farmers. Served a total of 10 years from the year of 2000 to 2010 as the CEO of Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty, SERP, in Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Vijay has led the mobilizing and empowerment of 11.5 million rural poor women in thrift and credit-based self-help groups, SHGs, and their federations to enable them to come out of poverty. For the next 5 years, from 2010 to 2015, Mr. Vijay has been appointed as the first mission director of the National Rural Livelihoods Mission, NRLM, for the Government of India. Throughout the 5 years journey, he has taken the lessons of SERP to the whole country with a vision of mobilizing 100 million rural women into reliable self-help groups and federations. As on date, NRLM has been successful in organizing over 70 million rural women in India into self-help groups and federations. In April 2015, Mr. Vijay returned to the Andhra Pradesh government as Special Chief Secretary of the Agriculture Department. After his retirement in September of 2016, Mr. Vijay has been appointed as the advisor to the Agriculture Department, and for the past 5 years, he has been leading the climate resilient natural farming, which is managed by Andhra Pradesh community that also known as Zero Budget Natural Farming. Renamed as Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming in 2020, Mr. Vijay is currently serves as the Executive Vice Chairman of RIS and ex officio Special Chief Secretary to the Government Agriculture and Cooperation Department of Andhra Pradesh. So far, this program has enrolled around 750,000 farmers and farm workers in Andhra Pradesh. This work builds on the large-scale mobilization of rural women in the state by SERP from the year 2000 onwards, with the vision by the year of 2027, all the 8 million farmers and farm workers in Andhra Pradesh region and the whole state adopt natural farming management and principles to their farms. For your information, Mr. Vijay is also the Vice Chair Productions of the Champions Network for the United Nations Food System Summit that was recently held in September of 2021. All right, that's it for the brief introduction about our honorable speaker, Mr. Vijay. One thing that we can learn just by reading his bibliography, Mr. Vijay has been dedicated most of his career and life to giving back to the community with all his positions and power, especially in empowering underprivileged families and women in Andhra Pradesh. This is something that we, especially the youth, should ponder and learn. How do we give back and empower the community around us? Ladies and gentlemen, before the webinar started, I would like to notify our Zoom and YouTube live viewers that we are going to have a Q&A session at the end of the discussion. Feel free to drop your questions in the comment box throughout the webinar session. Questions will be read and answered by our speaker accordingly. You can even ask questions directly to our dear speaker right after the presentation. Thank you. So without delaying more, I will start the webinar as on-duty moderator. I hope that our fellow viewers will find the discussion on covered topics interesting and helpful to clarify basic progress and information about the climate resilient natural farming practices in agroecology world. Without further ado, Mr. Vijay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the extended introduction, and I do hope that I'll do justice. So I will share my presentation. I hope this is visible.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Srimas, for the invitation. I'm very happy and impressed to note that there is interest in growing interest in agroecology in Malaysia, and according to me, that is the agriculture of the future. So can everybody mute, please? I see here some disturbance. Everybody, please mute. Yeah, thank you. So in Andhra Pradesh, we are practicing motivating our farmers to move to natural farming because it is good for the people and for the planet. And I'll explain how we are doing this. And in this photograph, actually, you can see a young farmer, is smiling, his family, his father. So this young farmer actually is an IT professional who spent 12 years in Bangalore and Chennai, and then decided to come back to his village to practice natural farming. So we hope that through this, we are able to encourage our youth to come back to agriculture. So this is our, they are our future. Young people are the future of the world. So I have a lot of hope on the young people. And our vision is that by 2031, all 8 million farmers and farm workers would have transited to natural farming. Now, why we should do this? I think most of you are very, clear about this. All over the world, farmers' distress is increasing on account of ever-increasing costs of cultivation and the increasing risks on account of the uncertain weather conditions and water scarcity. At the same time, many of you may not understand that there's a very serious health crisis on account of the food that we are eating. So there is global hunger, but there's also a problem of chemical residues on the food that we eat. And there's another serious problem that the food that we eat lacks many essential micronutrients, trace minerals. And in addition to that, there is heavy metal contamination in food. We see arsenic in rice, lead, mercury in rice and other food grains. So as consumers, your health is not at all safe. And this is, both for those who are vegetarians and those who eat meat, because the animals which are eating unsafe food are also creating problems when you eat the animal. So food which should be medicine has become the source of disease. So that's a very serious problem. And then we have a very serious issue of soil degradation. There is continuous loss of soil organic matter all over the world. 24 billion tons of soil is being lost every year. and there's water stress, the heat waves, and decreased biodiversity. COVID-19 is an example of what happens when you dabble with biodiversity. So there are multiple emergencies, and climate emergency is going to make these even more difficult. Now, this slide is important. There is climate emergency, and farmers are the frontline climate warriors. But at the same time, the methods of farming are causing climate change. So this is really a vicious cycle. So it is as if, if there is a fire burning, to put out that fire, you are pouring petrol in it. So that's exactly what we are doing. So how are we, why the current system of agriculture is causing this? Land management, because there's extensive deforestation, forest fires, burning of crop residues, ploughing, wind and water erosion, etc. Plus, over the last 60, 70 years, synthetic chemicals have actually accelerated this. So, this is the problem, multiple emergencies, and we ourselves. So, these are man-made emergencies. We have created them. So, then is there a solution? And we believe very strongly that there is a solution, because if it is, mankind which has created the problem, so it's mankind which can solve it. So farming in harmony with nature is, I'll convince you once the presentation is over, is a solution for the multiple emergencies. So what is natural farming? It is basically mimicking nature. It's a holistic land management practice that leverages the power of photosynthesis in plants to close the carbon cycle and build soil health, crop resilience, and nutrient density. That means we are following the principles of nature, which has created the greenery in this world. So briefly, it is photosynthesis which is actually pushing carbon dioxide in the air into the ground. So the photosynthesis process converts carbon dioxide and water. The plants convert carbon dioxide and water into food. So about 40% of the photosynthetes or food is stored in the shoot system above ground. 30% is stored in the roots, but 30% of sugars are exuded into the soil. So this is food for the army of microbes in the soil. And they are there for a purpose. And what I've explained to you is how Mother Nature has built soil over the last 420, 430 million years through this process only. So the root exudates are food for the microbes, and the microbes in turn provide the plant all the nutrients that are required by the plant, both from within the soil and nitrogen from the air. So this is, and for thousands of years, you will not have any problem of nutrient shortage if you are able to activate the soil biology. I won't go into greater details because it will be outside the scope of the presentation. But if you farm in harmony with nature, you will ensure that you are actually solving climate problem by putting carbon into the soil. Secondly, you're also going to improve the water holding capacity of the soil. So 1 additional gram of carbon on an average can hold additional 8 grams of water. So you can see the vast potential that exists. And as I explained, the role of the soil microbes. So you will enable efficient nutrient absorption mechanism, which is a very natural process. And the fungal mycorrhizae and other microbes create soil structure. So this results in increase in soil porosity. You will see it in the slide. So the soil biology, the action of fungal hyphae, bacteria, and root exudates glue together the soil particles. Can you please mute all? Yeah. So this action basically creates soil porosity. So greater water infiltration, then water holding. And the third, which I'll explain later, is we have found a new source of water for irrigation, and that is water vapor harvested for irrigation. It's a very unusual phenomenon. So I'm devoting few slides for this later on. So you can see practicing natural farming enables better nutrient absorption, enables carbon sequestration, and improves the soil structure. Now, what are those principles of nature that we are following? So these principles, we call them 9 principles, 8 positive and 1 negative. And these are universal. They are applicable not only in India, they're applicable in Malaysia, USA, Australia, everywhere. Because these are the principles which this is the driver of soil fertility. That means you have to maximize photosynthesis, keep the soil covered with living crops 365 days of the year. So this is a living root principle. And there should be diversity, and crops should be part of the landscape. Trees should be part of the landscape. So these two principles are essentially to maximize the photosynthesis rate per unit acre of land. The third one is minimal disturbance of soils, so that the soil microbiome, the soil structure is not disturbed. Then integrating animals into farming, because they have a very critical role in the enhancing soil biology. Then use of cover the soil with organic residues, crop residues, dung, etc. Then biostimulants as necessary catalysts. Because the soil biology is so depressed, we need to catalyze the soil biology. I'll explain this in the other slides. And pest management through better agronomic practices and botanical extracts, and using indigenous seed. So the 9th, which is a negative principle for us, is no synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, and weedicides. So these 9 principles are universal, but the practices based on the principles are highly local. They vary from country to country, province to province, and village to village, and even farmer to farmer. So what do these principles, how have we converted them into practices? You see here, one is we promote polycropping rather than monocropping. This is a mango orchard, and we're again intercropped. Then these are the biostimulants. This is called Bijamrit, seed coating, which is from cow dung, cow urine, lime, and handful of chemical-free soil. So it's a very simple method of making this. It's the cow dung is fermented for about 12 hours, and then mixed with the other ingredients, and then it is sprinkled on the seeds. So this microbial coating on the seeds is critical for the germination and better survival of the plants. So here we see our farmers are dipping the seedlings into the Bijamrit before transplanting. And this is a soil amendment. So before sowing the seed, this solid inoculum, it's from cow dung, cow urine, handful of uncontaminated soil, and then supported by jaggery or molasses and pulses flour or lentil flour. So there's some recipe for this. We train the farmers in how to make this, and it's mixed and fermented and made into into patties, and fermented for 5 days. Then it can be stored for 6 months also, nothing happens. And then it is powdered and applied on the soil before sowing the seed. This is another farmer making this in his own field. This is a liquid inoculum, Drava Jivamrit, similar composition. So again, it's fermented for 5 days, but it's a liquid formulation. So it's used once in 15 days, in some crops once in 10 days. So it depends on the soil, depends on the crops. So it can be applied to the roots, as this farmer is doing through the, irrigation system, or sprayed on the leaves. So this is so therefore you have a bioinoculum before the seeds are sown. Then you have seeds are coated with the inoculum, and then after germination, again the soil and the plants are coated with the inoculum. And we have tonics also once it crop enters a reproductive phase, so flowering, fruiting. Then there are different set of tonics which stimulate the flowering, fruiting, etc. So throughout the life cycle, we support the plant with bioinoculums. These are the women making this bioinoculum. This is pest management, concoction. This is made from neem leaves, some cow dung. So again, our farmers are very, very good in making these formulations by themselves. And we also have, mechanical trapping devices. You can see here yellow and blue sticky plates. We have pheromone traps, bird perches, etc. So, and the polycropping itself is a way of, controlling the pests. And we also promote indigenous seeds. This is just begun. So we have preserved different varieties of paddy, pulses, vegetables, etc. Still, there's a lot of work to be done. But we find that indigenous seed are good in the natural farming methodology. Now, those were the principles and practices. I will now tell you where we are. What is the extent of our coverage of farmers. We took up this program in the year 2016 with 40,000 farmers in 700 villages of the state. Our state is a southern state, south of India. We have a long coastline, almost 1,000 kilometers coastline, and we also have a semi-arid portion. So we are subjected to both cyclones and droughts. So in 2016-17, we had 40,000 farmers, and last year, 2020-21, we had reached out to 750,000 farmers and farm workers. About 480,000 farmers who have lands and 270,000 landless farm workers. So we have a footprint today in 28% villages of the state, and 10% farmers are enrolled. So it's a very widespread program in the state, and we have more than 200,000 hectares under natural farming. But please remember, it doesn't happen very quickly. It takes about 3 to 5 years for a farmer to transit from the conventional chemical agriculture to natural farming, which is depend only on on-farm inputs. And in India, in our state, 86% are small and marginal farmers. So small farmer means area less than 2 hectares. So per capita holding is 1 hectare. So this is the profile of our farmers. And the funding for this program has been done by the government. 1,800 crores, approximately 250 million US dollars is committed up to 2024. And we have been supported by a philanthropy, Indian philanthropy, Azim Premji philanthropy, to a tune of 100 crores or $16 million. So next year, we hope to reach 1.1 million farmers and farm workers. So the response from the farmers is extremely good. So in the next few slides, I'll take you through what are the impacts of this. So we have been doing, we have do internal assessment, but more important, we have assessments by an independent agency. which has been doing this assessment for the last 3 years or 6 seasons till now. So I'll present you the results of these 2 seasons. And broadly, over 3 years, 6 seasons, the broad conclusions are cost of cultivation has come down significantly. There are not much of yield differences. And this has resulted in significant increase in net income for the farmers practicing natural farming. And of course, improvement of people have reported better health, reported better soil health, biodiversity, etc. And you can see the results. These are our major crops: paddy, rice, 34% of the area is under rice, groundnut, cotton, black gram, red gram. These are pulses. And ragi is a millet, is a cereal. So as you can see, these 6 crops represent around 65% of the area under cultivation. You can see there is no yield penalty. In fact, yields are higher in natural farming, except for one crop. About 5 out of 6 crops, we had higher yields. And in all the crops, we had low costs, reduced costs, because rice, which is the most important, we see a 25% reduction in costs. And therefore, the increase in net incomes is very significant. We have 60% increase in net incomes for the paddy farmers. And as I mentioned, 34% of our farmers are paddy farmers. And other crops have done much better. This is the winter crop, we call the Rabi crop. You can see here again, paddy, groundnut, black gram, maize, and green gram. So again, out of 5 crops, we are having having higher yields in almost all the crops, reduced costs in all the crops, and net income increases in all the crops. So from the economic, and these are very large scale studies, and I've been told that these are the largest such studies in the world. So from farmers' incomes point of view, this is very, very good. And our first priority in the program has been to stabilize farmers' incomes. But there are other impacts also. This, of course, again, continuing this is one crop where the yields doubled and net income also doubled on an average. Yeah. So this is very important in a country in Indian context where water is very scarce. So we tried, because the farmers were reporting that they need to use less water when they move to natural farming. So we wanted to test quantitatively what is the reduction. And so we have almost 800 farmers have participated in this exercise. And we have taken the major crops and we looked at the reduction in the water. You can see here, we were very surprised that there's about 50% reduction in the water requirement of the crops, whether it is paddy, which is the most important crop, groundnut, cotton, and chilies. So every crop, farmers have reported that there is tremendous savings in water. So this is one very, very important benefit apart from the income benefit. Then this is our intervention for the landless poor. These are homestead gardens, and we ensure that they have 12 to 20 different kinds of vegetables, fruits, flowers in their homesteads. So this improves the household nutrition. And these are landless farm workers. So this is their best means of improving their nutrition at a very low cost. So this is a very important intervention for us. Again, more pictures of the same. These are all homestead gardens. And we see biodiversity in terms of birds. Birds are laying nests in the crops. We see pollinators back. And we see plenty of earthworms, 7 times increase in earthworms compared to conventional plots. And so it also shows Mother Nature is kind. If you don't harm it, it comes back. The restoration is very quick. Then this is very important, resilience. We had floods last year in 2020 and also this year. And you can see here the farmers practicing natural farming, the fields are intact, whereas the neighboring farmer has seen complete damage. This is a case in one district, Guntur district, adjoining fields completely destroyed, and whereas natural farming farmer, there is no damage to the field, and the water is also gone down. Here, the chemical agriculture, the fields are still waterlogged, whereas in the natural farming fields, the water has gone down, has gone into the soil, infiltrated into the soil. This is the chili crop. No damage for natural farming, extensive damage for the conventional crop. This is turmeric crop. Again, extensive damage in the chemically grown crop and no damage in the natural farming crop. So this resilience is extremely important. We are seeing it in all the crops, in all the areas. And as time goes by, where we are expecting extreme weather events, greater frequency. So there is no option for the farmers other than this to improve their resilience. Now, I'll just take some time to take you through how we have scaled it up so quickly. Because all over the world, agroecology, is not even 1% or 2%, say, in some countries, or 5% in some countries. But world average is both certified organic, non-certified organic, is definitely less than 5%. Whereas in Andhra Pradesh, in just 5 years, we have reached out to 10% farmers, and we expect to reach out to all the farmers in the next 10 years. So this is an outlier, and currently our program is the world's largest agroecology program in terms of number of farmers covered. So what are those factors which are, and first, why is it slow? Because agroecology is so good, why is it not scaling up? So these are the challenges basically. Farmers' mindset, because farmers have been told that agriculture cannot be practiced without chemicals. And then, of course, there are vested interests in the chemical industry, etc., in pushing the agrochemicals. And not only farmers, universities, the agriculture department. So everybody, has internalized that you need to have chemicals to practice agriculture. Now, the other challenge is, how do you take this knowledge to every farmer? And how do you support every farmer till they transit completely? And I told you it takes 3 to 5 years, especially when the extension system is poor. Then how do you make it self-sustaining and long-lasting? Even when the external intervention agency is gone, how do communities take it forward? So these are some of the critical challenges, and I will, explain what we have done in Andhra Pradesh to overcome these challenges. First and foremost is the government support, government advocacy. And as you know, government has provided the resources, financial resources for the implementation, provided human resources for the implementation, and various departments are working with us to take it forward. So the government support is critical for scaling up. The second pillar, as we call it, is the knowledge that we are taking to farmers. This knowledge is in harmony with nature, as I explained to you. And the way in which we take it to farmers is very innovative. And I'll explain this in the subsequent slide. But we have made more than 800 videos of different practices so that our farmers, those who are illiterate, semi-literate, can understand and apply it. At the same time, this knowledge, traditional knowledge, is also backed with research. We have collaborations with many national and international research institutions. And in the program, we encourage innovations from farmers, from our staff, and also from the external scientific institutions. Now, this third pillar, social capital of women self-help groups and their federations, is extremely critical. This is the pillar, this is the foundation, and this is the vehicle for taking it forward. I'll explain it in subsequent slides. And our extension strategy is through the human capital of farmers themselves. So we have a farmer to farmer extension system. And then we have facilitating organizations which ensure that the whole village is supported in making the transition. And finally, partnerships, because these are extremely critical in anything major like this. It can't be done alone. You require multidisciplinary organizations, multidisciplinary teams to come together in this. So government of Andhra Pradesh has very unique innovations, pro-farmer policies across the value chains. So this is a, the foundation, as I mentioned, about 20 years ago. Can it be muted, please? Aniza, please mute. Yeah. This about 20 years ago, government of Andhra Pradesh took up a program for poverty eradication through women's solidarity. This was done by the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty. And I was lucky to have headed that organization from 2000 to 2010, right from inception for 10 years. During this 10 years, we ensured that all women in rural areas come together, organize into collectives, and support their livelihoods through microfinance and other activities. And today, it is this social capital of women which is supporting the program. In our program villages, you can see more than 100,000 women self-help groups are partners, and about close to 5,000 village federations of these groups are our partners. And the SHG leaders themselves make an example by practicing natural farming. So that way they motivate the members. And this is in Andhra Pradesh overall, statewide, the structure of women's self-help groups. 8.7 million women are organized into 830,000 self-help groups. This is in the rural areas of Andhra Pradesh, and further federated into village federations, 28,000 federations, 600 odd mandal level federations, and finally at the district level, we have 13 districts, so 13 district federations. So this is a 20-year process, and we have reached this stage. And you can see these figures. So these women, last year, they accessed close to 161 billion rupees of bank loans. Their own savings are around 86 billion rupees, savings, regular savings, and the corpus is another 96 billion rupees. So these are very vibrant microfinance communities, and they are linked to the banks, commercial banks. So this access to finance enables them to improve their livelihoods and take care of any emergencies and livelihoods requirements. This is a very major investment made by the state government. And then we surveyed all the women who were organized into self-help groups. And as this figure shows, around 60% are having lands, and about 10% are non-agriculture families, but 30% or so are landless poor families. So that's when we decided to focus on the landless poor through homestead gardens. Now, what do the women self-help groups do? They do multiple programs. In fact, they lead the program. They discuss with each other. They prepare plans. They do collective action. You can see here they are preparing the biological inputs. And while preparing it, they also learn from each other. And they finance the transformation. And they also ensure that nobody is left behind. So, taking care of the poorest again becomes their responsibility. The other pillar is the Pharma Heroes. As I mentioned to you, the champion farmers are the ones who are taking the program forward. So we are not, concerned about their education levels or gender. Most important is they should be champion farmers, they should be best practitioners, they should know what they are saying. And we have now close to 6,000 such champion farmers, one per 100 farmers. We are increasing the number to by another 4,000-5,000 this year. And we train them. We are also they're trained in video dissemination, and with the support from FAO, we are also taking up farmer field schools to have better knowledge dissemination. And there are many stories of these champion farmers which are publicized and widely disseminated to inspire people. Then we use ICT extensively, video dissemination, smartphones for monitoring and for our own financial systems. Then this is an important slide. When we talk of transformation, we are not talking about individual farmers. We are talking of the whole village. So we approach all farmers. We go to all the farmers and motivate them, convince them to take up natural farming. But as you can see, anywhere, all farmers will not change in first year itself. So first year, maybe some 10%, 15% express interest. Out of that, maybe only 5% practice it. So slowly, over 3-4 years, we are able to convince all the farmers to enroll in this. And but then individual farmer's journey also is time consuming. It takes 3 to 5 years because this is knowledge intensive agriculture. That is something we should keep in mind. And so we have coined a slogan that changing one farmer means changing the entire village. Because then even if one farmer changes and others don't change, then even this farmer will lapse back into because others will make fun of her. So that's why we have to reach out to everyone, reach out to the collectives. And this hand-holding support is provided by the government, is provided by civil society organizations and community-based organizations. So even 8 years is actually not enough, but beyond 8 years, the community-based organizations, the women's collectives, the farmers organizations, then take the responsibility of the transformation. So this is a very important aspect of our program is the hand-holding support to individual farmers. Now, as I mentioned, we have a lot of research backing for the work that we are doing. So we have collaboration with the World Agroforestry Center in Nairobi, then University of Reading, UK, FAO, CIHAD, then Woodwell Research Institute, University of Cambridge. So there are a lot of collaborations because we believe that this has to be studied scientifically, and because we are changing the route from the conventional to a different system. So we need backing of science. And I'm happy to inform you that government of Germany is supporting us to set up a global agroecology research center with a grant of 20 million euros. In fact, once the center is set up, we welcome friends from Malaysia for an exchange visit to understand what is happening here. Then we have collaborated with national research organizations on variety of studies on subsidies, greenhouse gas emissions, water efficiency, SDG achievement, validation of the APCNF protocols, etc. And then we have a lot of internal studies. We have a very strong science team. They pick up the problems from the field, and then they conduct experiments again in farmers' fields, not in laboratories. All these experiments are in farmers' fields. So, and this is very dynamic. Each year we change the topics. Of course, some topics continue because we need to have long-term results, but this is also dynamic. So modern research, modern science support is very important in our work. And how much does it cost? What is the transformation cost? And what are the components? As I mentioned, it's about 15,000 rupees. That means $200 over 8 years per family, and one family equals 1 hectare per capita. And you can see that 77% of this investment is for knowledge dissemination, capacity building, 9% for institutions, 12% for tracking, monitoring, quality assurance, etc., and 2% as technical support. So we require around 10,000 crores. 10,000 crores is about $1.3 billion. Now, this transformation, as we already seen, is very good for farmers, also very good for environment, whether it's around health, soil health, water security, regeneration of coastal ecosystems, biodiversity, climate resilience. But in addition to that, it's good for government finances. If you spend 10,000 crores or 1.3 billion in this transformation, we get a savings of twice that amount in terms of savings in electricity subsidies, because we provide free electricity to farmers to pump water. So even with 25% savings, we are able to recover 2 times the cost involved in the transformation. And savings in fertilizer subsidy is 4 times. So this makes eminent sense for the government to switch over. Now, I just want to play one video here, and then the last topic is around water. There's a very important breakthrough in terms of harnessing water from the air. I think it may be very relevant for your country also. I'll just play this video and then resume the presentation. This is from Anantapur district. It's a semi-arid district. This was shot in March and some were shot in May. You can see that except this plot of land, which is a natural farming plot, which we call 365 days green cover, all round there's absolutely no crop whatsoever. Can you hear the sound, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear it.
Okay.
అట్లే వస్తుంది సార్ జీవామృతం స్ప్రే చేయడం వల్ల. వర్షం కూడా లేకపోయినా ఈ మల్చింగ్ ద్వారా అది ఎప్పుడు పచ్చగానే ఉంటుంది. కాయ పూత ఎప్పుడు జరుగుతూనే ఉంది సార్. మాకు 25 రకాలు రోజు కోయడం రోజు అమ్మడం జరుగుతుంది సార్. రోజు డబ్బులు రావడమే జరుగుతుంది. అందువలన ఈ 50 సెంట్ల 60.
So that was a slide on, that was a video on a very breakthrough phenomenon, I would call it. I'll just explain in the last set of slides what are the implications of this. So what you have seen is basically harnessing of water from air through the mechanism of plants grown under natural farm. Sounds unbelievable, but you can't deny what you have seen. So this is the Walter Jena, the scientist who inspired us to take up this work, and he visited us in 2019, and he gave a lecture in Niti Aayog, and he said that pre-monsoon dry sowing is a global breakthrough. And we had extensive discussions with him on, how did this water come? How were the crops, were able to grow without rainfall? So after 4 days of brainstorming, of course, he is an extraordinary person, and he'll be helping us to do experiments. But essentially around 60 to 80%, according to him, is the water harnessed by the plants from the air. But of course, before that, there is biological water, soil, surface water, deep water, etc. So I'll not go into the science so much, but what are the implications? So we started this for, just to cover the lands in summer with 11 people. And this number increased exponentially. And this year we had targeted 300,000, but we ended up doing 350,000 farmers. So between, in the summer months, when typically the lands are fallow, between April to June, July, they're able to have cover crops, as you can see in this photograph. So we are now, therefore, we are extending the seasons. We call this the pre-monsoon summer sowing, April onwards. And then, remaining months, if there is a dry spell, that means when the monsoons withdraw, then also we can take another crop. And I'll just show one example in Anantapur district, same district. And this is a farm of the same lady. 17 out of 20 years are drought years, and farmers can't take even one crop. And under that situation, you saw Pushpavati taking 3 crops in a year. So we have created these 3 windows. One is what we call PMDS window from April to June, July. There is a summer window, Kharif crop, and then there's a winter window. And she is sowing in hot summer, dry sowing. This is in April. And these are the seeds which are pelleted. This is the ingredients used in pelleting: Bijamrit, the seed coating material, clay, then Gana Jivamrit and ash, and then water is sprayed. So this is the pelleting of seeds. This is how seeds appear after pelleting. These are different seeds, and so they are dibbling the seed. They are sowing the seed and covering the soil with mulch. So this is the mulch, and you see with very little rainfall, all the seeds have germinated and very healthy growth. These are, many of them are the cereal crops which grow very fast. This is about 45 days after sowing. Then 60 days. They are able to harvest green leafy vegetables, then some lentil crops, early crops, tubers. Then this is the main crop, which is the groundnut plus other crops. So you can see, they have covered the soil with the groundnut shell. There's a mulching, crop residue mulching. And this is germination of groundnut. So you can see the aerial view with groundnut and the mulch you can see very clearly. This is the growth of groundnut crop. You can see groundnut, then castor, red grape, field beans, the other crops that you can't see. This is the castor crop, this is the red gram, and this is the groundnut crop. So again, 100 days of the crop. You can see these are the millet crop. This is a millet crop. So after harvesting groundnut in the winter, then she has taken up vegetables. So you can see tomato, coriander, chilies in March, where there is no crop anywhere. These are brinjals and chilies. Red gram crop, it's a lentil. again coming in March. And this is hot summer in May, mostly castor. You can also see red gram. These are all castor spikes. You can see this. This is again castor. So this is a drone shot in May. And it's a miracle. You know, you don't see any greenery anywhere in the district. This is another lady. Land was lying fallow for 10 years. In just 1 year, she was able to reclaim the land. Another farmer who reclaimed the degraded soils, alkaline soils with tree crops. This is a moringa crop, and he also has papaya, then a variety of vegetables, tomatoes, brinjals or eggplant, beans. So the implications is that this can increase the cropping intensity in our state from 1.26 to even 2.5 or 3. The other thing is this true worldwide also. So we have around 3 million hectares of land which is fallow. So that land can come into cultivation. So these are the implications. Then we have, so this is the major implication of this work of harnessing water from the air. Even flood resilience has happened because of this ability of the soils to be porous. So we are seeing multiple benefits from natural farming. Now we are having partnerships with many states within the country and also outside, Rwanda, Kenya, Mexico, then other countries in Africa and other countries in Central America. And then we have partnerships with the UN Environment, KFW, GIZ, GIST, Impact, and I already mentioned Walter Yena, then Digital Green, which helps us in the video dissemination. So I just want to end with this quote. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. So we owe it to them to leave a better world. And I believe very strongly that it is in our hand. So this, everybody can be a partner in this. It's not that only scientists or others have to do this work. Every citizen, especially young people, everybody, not just young people, can't put undue burden on the young people. So I'll conclude here. Thank you very much. We can, over to you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vijay. Such an insightful presentation. There are like new informations from the presentation just now. So we shall continue with the Q&A session. Before that, I would like to summarize some of the highlighted mentions by Mr. Vijay just now that I can recap. Mr. Vijay basically has explained how and why agroecology is the future, where the current chemical agricultural practices has significantly degrade the soil nutrient contents and natural microbes activities, and how the chemical residues absorbed by plants being detected in food we consume today. Hence, agroecology is the reverse is here to reverse the mass loss and degradation that caused by the long-term chemical agricultural practices. So basically, agroecology practice mimic the nature and help improve overall nutrient cycling in the soil, where some of the mentioned features by Mr. Vijay just now about agroecology practices, including efficient nutrient absorption, greater water holding capacity, and promote mycorrhizae and other microbes activities in the soil, for better soil structure and aeration. Throughout the 8 principle of natural farming mentioned in the presentation just now, and then through the whereby the including the empowerment, women empowerment activities, not just limited to cultivation activities, but I can see that there is a stress about how awareness being spread and education being spread among women and where no discrimination about genders in empowerment of cultivation of natural farming system. So without any delay, it is time for Q&A session. Let me read a question from the Zoom chat room first. So the question is, the first question from, I don't know the full name, but there is PCL asking how to collect cow urine, sir, and what is the function of pulse flour in the liquid biostimulant?
It's a very important question because this is a question that the men asked me when we started the program. They used to very angrily they say, you think you expect us to wake up and run out of the cow to collect the urine? So I said, no, there's a very simple solution. So the cows come to rest. There's a cattle shed. So we told them to, have a proper flooring and have a slope so that all the urine collects in one place. So they've learned how to collect this urine in a very simple way. So it's just creating a little slope and then the urine is collected. Not at all a problem. We can send you a video which shows how they are doing it. The use of pulse flour, basically you saw that we use molasses, jaggery, and pulse flour. So pulse flour provides the nitrogen. So for the microbial growth, they require nitrogen and carbon. So it plays this role.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the answer. Next question. Are the APCNF videos made available online? Do you have a formal APCNF YouTube channel, sir?
Yes, I think we will send. I think my colleague Murli is online. So we will, send you all the links. Okay. And even this video that I have played, I'll share it with you. I have already sent it to you by mail. You can have it. Okay. But then we have a YouTube channel, apzbnf.in. But I think we'll share it with you.
Okay, so we'll be receiving the link from your response email,
yeah,
I believe? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Do you have niche market for the farm producers? Do you have any problems selling or marketing the farm producers?
Currently, we have not gone into arranging the marketing. The farmers themselves are able to sell it. So there are, in any case, they are able to produce it at a lower price and they are getting higher yields. Their cost has come down. So even if they sell at the same price as the conventional crop, they don't have any problems in marketing. But obviously, farmers will not be happy. They want higher price. So there are NGOs, farmer producer organizations who are working on this. So our primary focus is to organize farmers through the women's self-help groups and maybe other forms to aggregate the procurement and marketing. So we find that the farmers are able to sell. That's not a problem, but we want to do more so that people who genuinely want good food should be able to get it. So traceability, all those are important things. We are working on it, and because my first priority was to get as much farmers to convert to natural farming, and then work on marketing.
Okay, regarding the same question, I also have like my personal question regarding the marketing and selling the produces from natural farming crops. You said that they are selling the same price as the commercialized crops, right?
Yeah.
The natural farming produces. Oh, there is no like such issue about the price because the case in Malaysia, usually the natural farming or organic producers usually selling a higher price than the commercialized wine. So do you have any comment on that?
No, all I'm saying is that those farmers who are able to sell at a premium, they are doing it. So they're able to locate buyers through WhatsApp, through the social media, through their own networks. So there they are getting a higher price. But I'm saying even those farmers who don't get a higher price, they are not losing because their cost of cultivation has come down.
Mhm.
So there is higher price
Mhm.
and there are people who are getting it, but not everyone is getting it.
Yeah. How is people acceptance towards the market price of the natural farming produces of also?
From the consumers or from the producers?
From the consumers.
Consumers are very happy because
Mhm.
the premium is not very high because these are local markets.
Mhm.
So where they know the farmers, they know who is producing it, how she has produced it. So there is intimate knowledge
Mhm.
between the consumers and the producers. So we're also focusing on the local markets.
Mhm. That's good.
And distant market, of course, requires certification, requires other things.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your answers. So the next question, may I know, other than the use of cover crop and biostimulant, what are other practices to enrich the soil?
These are, in my opinion, these are more than enough.
Mhm.
But otherwise, conventionally, people have been using, tank silt. So they excavate tanks of water.
Mhm.
So the silt. So silt application is supposed to improve the soil fertility. They also apply huge quantities of oil cakes, neem cake or castor oil cake. There are other ingredients which farmers have been traditionally using. So that's an option available with the farmer. But our experiments, our research shows that this is enough. If you have cover crops and if you use biostimulants, and then if you can, use the mulch, crop residue mulch, you really don't need anything else.
So through the natural inputs and biostimulants, it really does improve the activities of the soil, basically, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
See, below the soil,
Mhm.
every teaspoonful has around 7 billion
Mhm.
microbes. 1 teaspoonful equals to all the human beings in the world. So most of them are in a hibernating state. The microbes are hibernating because we have suppressed the soil biology. Once you provide root exudates, that is the food for the microbes, and you don't apply chemicals. If you apply chemicals, you are killing the microbes or you push them into hibernation. So the biostimulants are basically signaling the microbes, saying that wake up, food is coming. So what the microbes require is the root exudates. As I mentioned, the photosynthesis product which is pushed into the soil. And diverse crops are important because each crop signals certain kinds of bacteria, certain kinds of fungi, certain kinds of archaea. So if you have a groundnut crop, it will send signals to certain kinds. To that, if you add a pigeon pea or red gram crop, then you'll calling some other microbes. So if you increase the coriander, tomato, eggplant, castor, so if you increase the complexity of crops above the soil, you are waking up more diverse microbes below the ground. So you can accelerate the soil biology by having more diverse cover crops. Initially, we started with 8 to 10 diverse crops. Now farmers are using 18 crops. And then this year somebody is trying with 28 crops. So it's up to them. So we tell them more diverse, the better.
So basically, you mentioned that the natural farming and diverse crop rotations really does help improve the nutrient cycling in the soil, right? What my question is, what are the measures taken? Is there any measures taken, like in terms of researches? Are there any soil analysis that to prove the soil improvement content, or through just morphological or the produces from the crops itself?
So we have several indicators for that.
Mhm.
First and foremost, you have seen our large scale studies on yields, cost of cultivation. So yields have not suffered. Yields are going up, quality has gone up. In addition to that, University of Reading is doing comparative studies. So University of Reading and us, we are doing comparative studies across major crops. So we are testing what is happening to the soil pH, conductivity, different nutrients in the soil. So that analysis is, for 3 seasons is getting over. So shortly they'll publish it. Through World Agroforestry Center, we are setting up land degradation surveillance framework. So we are setting up about 18 sites in Andhra Pradesh. Then through satellite imagery and ground truthing, we can arrive at 10 to 15 biophysical indicators. So every year, what is happening to every plot of land can be studied. So that will take us another 12 months, 18 months to have that completed.
Okay.
But most important is, the way the number of farmers is increasing, which shows that, farmers are learning from each other. They are seeing it works. So for me, farmers are scientists and they are telling me something. I should not ignore them.
Yeah, true. Okay, thank you, sir. The next question, is water holding capacity, do you mean by is the same meaning as water retention?
Yes, that means there is a subsoil water storage, so that water is held near the root zone. So that happens when the soil organic matter increases and water is held near the root zone. Yes, it is the same.
Okay, the same. Water holding capacity is the same as water retention. Okay. Next one. What do you think as other alternative to cow urine in situation that we couldn't find the cow urine? It's not accessible.
Oh, no problem. We are doing experiments with buffaloes. We are doing with sheep. We are doing with goats. And we've been asked to do with pigs. So basically herbivores, the ungulates, so depending on which country you are from, whatever was the native herbivore. So,
Mind share with us, sir?
Malaysia has cows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then where's the problem? Then what is your main livestock?
Main livestock. Chicken, I think, yeah.
So, yeah, but the answer is that we are experimenting with wide range of livestock.
Mind share with us so far what kind of natural input from dungs or livestock that is the best, that you found the best to be applied in natural farming, sir?
I have already explained that we have one formulation for seed treatment. So there is a formula there, how much cow dung.
Oh, I see. It involves calculation.
Yeah, there's a formula for all this.
Okay.
For liquid inoculum, the solid inoculum. There are tonics. So we have more than 200 formulations for pest management, for tonics, for soil application, for leaf application. So there is there's a lot of training which is given to our champion farmers, training given to our farmers. I told you we have made around 800 video films of all these practices and inspirational stories, and we'll continue to make them.
So basically, it's the combination of natural ingredients application, right?
Yeah, natural ingredients, fermentation. But you see, what is interesting is that once the soil biology improves, then you can reduce the biological inputs. The diverse crop cover is something that needs to be maintained year after year. But the biological inputs, cow dung, cow urine, other ingredients like we have got fish amino acid, egg amino acid. So many of these inputs, the quantities can be reduced once the soil fertility has increased.
I think we got like audience. Dr. Annie Mitin would like to ask questions, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Vijay, thank you so much. That was really insightful, and to see such great work that you are doing in Andhra Pradesh, and and most importantly for me is to see the social transformation, yeah, that is taking women forward, yeah, and the involvement of women. Looking at the food and the food culture tradition is still there, yeah. And in Malaysia, the thing is, before your program, how much involvement do women have in agriculture, in Andhra Pradesh? Because now it seems they are very actively doing all this farming, but before that, what was that like? Because in Malaysia, women are being displaced in agriculture. Yeah, so this is something that is, maybe we could learn something from you. Yeah, if you.
Right. See, in Andhra Pradesh, as I mentioned, we have about 20 years history of organizing women. So women became strong through financial inclusion, their own savings. So we started, by organizing women, building their knowledge, building their capacities. So they have a very important say in agriculture, and also now you see the inputs are made locally. Inputs are not purchased. So when inputs were purchased, the role of men was more important. The inputs are made locally, so the involvement of women has increased. So it's not overnight. It's a gradual process. You have to work on it. The rural women, we have to invest in their capacities, but basically organizing them, that is very important. And they have a very important role to play. Their say in the household has increased. So you see, the men have migrated. In our case, rural men, many of them have migrated because agriculture became unprofitable, and all the hard work was left to the women. The women, are able to adopt this agriculture very easily, and they've also got the men back. Have migrated. In our case, rural men, many of them have migrated because agriculture became unprofitable. Can it be muted, please? I think I'm hearing my echo.
Yeah, host, can mute, please.
Yeah.
Wait, huh?
Okay.
I think it's already muted.
Yeah. Next, please.
Okay, next question. Okay, this one. Why do you think farmers that currently using chemical fertilizers shy away from applying natural farming to their practice?
That's a very important question, because, as I mentioned, they have been brainwashed. They have been addicted to chemicals. So they have been told that you can't practice agriculture without chemicals. Then what do you do? So that is the reason why we have multiple approaches. We use the champion farmers. They go to these farmers, sit with them, explain to them. Then they discuss this in the women self-help groups. So they tell them, okay, you have 2 acres of land, use half acre of land without chemicals. So there's a lot of, that's why the first 2 years are very difficult to convince the first farmer, to convince the first 10 farmers. But once some of them change, then others change. It is not easy. It's a difficult process. But now after 6 years, we don't find any difficulty in the new villages. So farmers are saying, okay, we're ready to change. You please tell us how.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Next question. How to overcome the problem of excessive rain that make vegetable become stunted using the same concept?
Yeah, you see, the excessive rain means
Mhm.
it requires, if your soil is compact, then there'll be waterlogging. So your vegetables, any crop will be stunted. But when the soil becomes a carbon sponge, then the water percolates and it doesn't, there's no standing water. So the problem is with standing water.
Mhm.
So when the entire water has, you saw those photographs when neighboring fields have collapsed, but nothing has happened to the natural farmers. I showed you different crops, paddy, chilies, turmeric.
Yeah.
So soil becomes porous, then the roots have penetrated deeper. In all these cases, the roots are deeper. So, they provide strength to the farm, to the crop. Excess winds also cannot pull them down.
Mhm. Okay.
So that is essentially we are making the soil rich with microbes. We are making the soil rich with carbon.
Mhm.
We are making it porous. We are increasing the water holding capacity. So one by one after the other, all these combined ensure that the water percolates and then doesn't stagnate above the ground.
Okay, sir. I think the next question you already answered and you already mentioned in the presentation, but I just read the question. What is your point of view about green manure?
Yeah, see, green manure again, typically, I don't know what is used in Malaysia, but it's again a monocrop. It's again a monocrop.
Mhm.
Whereas we are saying the cover crops should be diverse, 8 varieties, 12 varieties, 16 varieties. So the science behind this is there was a long-standing experiment in University of Vienna in Germany. So over 17 years, they studied, different, one plot, there was only one kind of crop. In a plot, they had two kinds of crops, 4 kinds, 8, 16. And then they studied what happens to crop growth, soil fertility, resilience. And they came to the conclusion that in a plot of land where there are more than 8 kinds of crops are the best in terms of all parameters.
Okay, there's one more question, sir. Will organic manure including plant and animal-based organic material? Animal-based.
As you have seen, we are using the dung of the animal, urine. So those are animal-based products. Then we also use eggs. We ferment eggs. So it's called egg amino acids. Then fish meal is also used. Then we use botanicals, plant extracts, neem leaves, custard apple leaves, different leaves. About, as I mentioned, we have about 200 different formulations. So it's a combination of animal products and plant products.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions from the audience would like to ask directly to Mr. Vijay? No? Okay, there is no questions in the live YouTube as well. If there are no more questions from the participants and our live viewers, that marks the end of the 11th series of the International Agroecology and Community webinar session. To fellow participants, kind reminder for you to fill up the attendance and feedback form provided in the chat and comment sections to redeem your e-certificate. Once again, thank you so much for your kind sharing and insightful presentation, Mr. Vijay. Thank you to all participants and live viewers for your interest and time spent from joining the webinar. Much appreciated. And lastly, congratulations to the organizing team for the great work and successful webinar hosting. I am Dini, your moderator for today. Stay tuned for our finale webinar in December, which will be the closing of this year's International Agroecology and Community webinar series. Follow, like, and subscribe to our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube channel, and website that goes with the name Streamers Society for more updates on our recent activities and community projects. Stay safe and take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vijay. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day for you. It's already night also there, no? So
I'm very impressed that young people have come together. So I really wish you all the very best and get more and more farmers involved in taking this forward because we are running out of time. So this work has to be done quickly, and young voices are the best voices to sort of take it.
Before you go,
yeah,
can we have a short photo session? Can everyone turn on their camera, please? All right. Yeah, no one, no more. All right, ready? Smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, there's more. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you so much, sir. It's very interesting. Your presentation is very interesting because, yeah.
And thanks to Murli, my colleague who has joined.